Right, so the problem with this software is I don't have like an intro wired into the program, so there's no way for me to signal the start of the show other than talking to you from behind the curtain like I'm an announcer at the pantomime. So usually I'd maybe give you a wee TV theme song or something to sing. However, this morning I think we've got to get cracking with the knacking, and I'm just going to get moving into it because, ladies and gentlemen, hello, good morning. It's nice to see you. Maybe next time we'll have a wee TV theme for you or something. I like going through the oldies. I'm like Peter Kay. This is the wrong stream. This is Ajax 5 Celtic 1. We don't want reminded of that. Hello, it's good to see you. Welcome to the first time this season we're doing it, a lineup reaction stream, which is going to become a regular fixture on the channel when Celtic are away from home. Whenever I'm not at the games. So essentially, everywhere bar Livingston and maybe a few other games this season, we should have one of these streams to kind of warm us up going into the game, to get your thoughts, to get your opinions, to look over the team, of course, and talk about the circumstances as we move into the game of the day, which this afternoon, of course, is a trip to Pataudry, our first away game of the season. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, let's focus on the circumstances that surround this game. Celtic could go top of the table this afternoon, albeit for a short amount of time, because Hearts and Hibs have the chance to win later and goal difference could prevail. But they could go top of the league this afternoon. And also, Celtic could go 4 points clear of Rangers already as they drop points for a second time already this season. On midweek, I was led to believe that this Rangers team were back, that they were the best in the world. What happened? What happened? Dundee so close to taking all 3 points at Ibrox yesterday. I'll take drop points in any fashion. It was a bit gutting to see the last minute penalty or whatnot, but ho-hum, they had a disallowed goal. Celtic could go clear. And listen, I try my best to come on here and hide the bitterness, but when Rangers drop points, too right, I'm going to be celebrating it, because it's only natural. So Celtic could take advantage of that this afternoon, and we'll talk about that maybe if any points get brought up. But here is the starting 11 on your screen. Celtic's starting 11 is already out there. So is Aberdeen's, of course. We are an hour to kick off. We have both starting 11s. And before I get to your questions and before I get to all your points and your thinking, here it is for Celtic on the left-hand side of your screen. I hope you can see it okay. Kasper Schmeichel is in goals. A back four of Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales and Kieran Tierney. The midfield three remains the same from last week against St Mirren as well. Benjamin Nygren, Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate. The only change in Celtic's starting 11 comes in the front line this week as Yang drops out for James Forrest, who came on, played very, very well, of course, last week. James Forrest starts on the right wing. Adam Ida and Dyson Maeda start alongside. So that is the starting 11. As for the bench, I'll run through it very, very quickly. We've got Vinny Sinsalo, Austin Trusty, Yang, McCowan, Shin, Yamada, of course, Johnny Kenny, Arne Engels, Paulo Bernardo, and Anthony Ralston. That is the bench for Celtic this afternoon. Now, I don't have a lovely wee fancy graphic to bring on screen of the Aberdeen side, but I will bring it up on screen for you very quickly, because we won't be talking about Aberdeen all that much, with their starting 11 all that much throughout this stream. So that is my soft. I'm having a nightmare here. I'm having a nightmare. Why can I not find it? Why can I not find it? I'm having an absolute nightmare. I'm having technical difficulties. The Aberdeen team I'll just run through because I'm having some technical issues, it seems. Aberdeen have got Mitov in goals, back four of Jensen, Milne, Dorrington and Devlin, Graham Shinnie, Nilsson, Milanovic, Wachishi, Keskinen and Yenge. That is the Aberdeen side, and of course substitutes. I'm not going to bother rhyming through them just now, but they have got their bench there. Yes, Celtic could go top of the league this afternoon. The team is on screen, but we're here to do a kind of sort of preview and talk about everything else. As for the starting 11, I'm pretty happy with it. It's basically what I anticipated, bar James Forrest, because I thought he would still be benched, and not for any reason other than I just thought he was a better option from the bench. I thought that we'd be better off just bearing with Yang for the first part of the game and then having Forrest to come on if things are struggling. But hey, listen, James Forrest, if he can give us a better start in the game, then I'd rather have him playing. over Yang, quite frankly. So it's a team that I expected. I see a lot of points coming up about, Yamada not getting a start, the fact that Inamura has been left out the squad again, and we'll touch on that throughout this stream. I'll use your points and your questions to do just that. Thank you to Connor, by the way, for the first donation of the stream, saying back the team and the manager 2-0 to Celtic with a £2 donation. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I am hitting unk status with the technology, so that's just what comes with age, I suppose. I can't help it. I can't help it. I think that this is a team that should be beating Aberdeen. Let's just cut to the chase here before I start answering your points and bringing in what you're saying. I think ultimately we need to start thinking highly of ourselves. And I know last week wasn't a pretty game to watch, but I think that Aberdeen are a team that we should have more success against than St Mirren, just with the way that both teams were set up. But Aberdeen got the blueprint right in the Scottish Cup final. And if they can repeat what they've done in the Scottish Cup final, there's no reason why Aberdeen can't get a result today. But I just feel like this is a game where we should be allowed to play more of our football. It's about sustaining it longer in this game. Because I thought against St Mirren, we started the game really, really well. 20-25 minutes into the game, I was thinking we're looking good. This is reminding me of the start to last season, if we could just get the ball in the back of the net. But then there was almost just a kind of... we trailed off a little bit. We kind of lost the same intensity, and I think that the urgency that we showed in the first 20 or 25 minutes sort of disappeared. And I don't know if that was through St Mirren strangling the game, or if it was just through our own energy levels not being up to speed. Nonetheless, we just kind of dipped a little bit, and I don't think we can allow that to happen against Aberdeen today. Don't get me wrong, I watched the game against Hearts on Monday night, and I don't think that Big Yenge is a player that I'm necessarily scared of, but this is exactly the type of thing that happens. You come into these games and a messy opportunity pops up and they'll probably take it. So we can't allow ourselves to fall asleep. I think defensively last week we were brilliant. So defensively I don't have any quarrels going into today's game. And that extends across the ones even I'm most critical of. Liam Scales, somebody who I have been, even last week people were getting pissed off at me for not giving him maybe the credit he deserved. He had a solid game last week. Defensively, anyway, he had a solid game. So if he can repeat that this week, I'm confident defensively we don't have an awful lot to worry about. I think that the major concerns come with the supporters in terms of the attacking output and creating the chances. We created an awful lot last week, but we didn't finish them. And I think that's what people worry about. We really need Adamida to step up and have a big game today. And there's only so many more times I can say that. There's only so many more times that I think Celtic fans can bear with that. But we are really at a sort of now or never stage for Adamida in terms of getting the full support of the full backing of the support, and also just being trusted as the number one striker. I think we are at a point now where he needs to take these chances and he needs to take them now. And if he doesn't, well, serious conversations are going to be had, and I think Celtic will do a lot of jiggery pokery with the front three and changing it from between now and the end of the window. And if that means putting Maida back through the middle until January, if that means bringing in quality wingers or another quality striker, I don't quite know what the plan is for that yet. I think that Adamida needs to take it now, so it's a big game for him today, and I hope he takes the opportunity. So Yamada on the bench again, Kenny on the bench again. I'm assuming one of those two will get a chance in the game if he does not exactly firing. And we can only time can tell with that. We can't exactly put a prediction on what's going to happen because either might come out, might score a goal early days. We just need to wait and see. So let's get some of your points for this match preview. Of course, as I said, going to make this a regular fixture for all the away games this season. If you haven't already, go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. We'll be here for around another 20 minutes or so. I'm seeing everybody talking about Inamura. He is one of the big topics of conversation. Once again, left out the squad for today's game. Jamie67 saying, surely the problem with Inamura is that Rodgers has already said he wanted to loan him out this season. Surely he's not including him to show the board we are light there. Same with the left centre back issue. We've got other people saying that it's criminal, he's been left out. Mark Fairfield saying that Inamura was the biggest plus for me in pre-season and now he's disappeared. Typical Brendan Rodgers. I've seen somebody saying that he's making a point to the board that the board signings are not getting starts or even not involved in the squad today. I think ultimately for me what it comes down to with Inamura, and there's only a certain amount of spaces on that bench, right? And who are you? There's realistically, let's be honest with ourselves for a minute here. Who's getting dropped from the bench for Inamura today? I think the only person that you can make a case for is maybe Johnny Kenny or Shin Yamada, one of the two strikers. You don't need both of them involved, but if let's just say Inamura wasn't there, if Shin wasn't there, people would be saying the same thing. If Kenny wasn't there, after signing a new contract, people would probably be saying the same thing. I don't think that Inamura has been left out through malice. I don't think he's been left out through having to make a point. I think that Brendan Rodgers just looks at this squad, Kieran Tierney starting, with the possibility of either Scales and Trusty are both players who have played at left back. Inamura isn't, I think, an absolute priority to be on that bench. This is just me speaking from a manager's point of view here. I'm not speaking from my own point of view. My point of view is I would have liked to see him on the bench because I want to see him tested at a domestic level. I would like to see Inamura tested in a game against Aberdeen, a game against St Mirren, because you get a better idea of where he's at. You can't take everything from pre-season, right? Pre-season's a pinch of salt. They're basically games that that don't matter. You know, they're all about getting up to fitness, all up to standard. So I don't want to take anything from pre-season, but I just think that when you look at that team and you look how many spots there are on the bench, that it's difficult to even justify Inamura getting in there, especially if he's not the player that's up to standard that Brendan Rodgers thinks. So I think that's all it is. I don't think it's anything to do with malice or proving a point. I just think it's a case of, well, if Tierney does have to go off 60 or 70 minutes into the game again, we can cope the last 20 minutes with Scales or Trusty at left back. And I think that's how the manager's thinking about it. I don't think it's anything else that has to be read too deeply into. But I would have liked to see him there. We talk about this backup left back situation, and raises the same question. So if we do go out and sign another new backup left back, which I see people talking about in the chat right now, if we go out and sign the Portuguese lad that was linked with us, he's just the first one that came to my head, Nzinho I think his name was. If we were to sign him, where's his place in the squad? If Inamura's not got one, then where's his place? So that's a whole other question, I guess, that comes with time, but we'll wait and see. Just to get back to the chat and bring up some other things, that's just my opinion on the Inamura situation for now. As I said, I would like to see him involved as well, lads. I'm as, frustrated as it is. Sam saying, I take it that Simpson Pusey hasn't been registered yet. That's not the case. I think that Brendan Rodgers commented on Friday that he's just not ready yet. And I think that's all it is. Of course, Simpson Pusey didn't really have much of a pre-season with everything that's been going on. Of course, Man City started back a little later than Celtic. Of course, with a move up in the air for him, he wasn't involved as much. I don't think it's anything to do with registration issues. I think it's just down to the fact that he's not ready yet for a game, and he's not on the bench today either. So, Simpson Pusey, of course, Celtic's newest signing, not involved in today's match day squad. As simple as that. Spaniel Purry saying that our squad is criminally underprepared with no signs of movement in the transfer window, expecting a loss today. If we win, it'll be due to Aberdeen being poor. I think that's incredibly pessimistic, to be fair. This is a squad that is this is a squad that should be winning. And I can't flip my mindset on that, I'm afraid. I know a lot of people are down and out at the minute and feeling a little bit kind of pessimistic and negative on things. But, you can question the quality of the striker all you want, but this is a team that should be beating Aberdeen. Simple as that for me, and I can't I can't look at things as negatively as some people are right now. Do you think that the club was maybe waiting for registration before looking at players? God knows what's going on, Sean. It's not for me to comment right now. The board are stringing us up, it feels like, and that's about that. Hello, Doug. Hi, Ryan. Fully expect you to win this one. How long is Jota out for? Jota's meant to be out until, we're talking probably about January, Doug, until Jota's back, which is annoying, to be fair. Celtic News 1887 saying, hoping that Ida proves everyone wrong. The abuse he receives from our own support is utterly embarrassing. I think that it's fair to say that patience is wearing thin with Adam Ida. And listen, there's only so much defending I can do of Ida. I've been backing him since day dot until last week, and I'm backing him. I love Adam Ida. I think there's definitely a player in there. You don't score 20 goals without being a player. You don't win cup finals without being a player. There's just something off about him at the minute, and he needs to start taking his chances. I don't condone the abuse of any Celtic player. I think there's a way you can go about it. I would never go out my way to actually abuse a player. I criticise a player, yes. Question a player, of course, but abuse is a completely different story. But he needs to start taking his chances. This is a huge, huge game for him today, and there's no two ways about that. It is one of the biggest games of his Celtic career thus far, I'd say, with a couple of weeks left in the transfer window. Celtic seriously probably thinking about whether or not they need to improve on him. It is a huge, huge game. For people asking kick-off time, it is 12:30. Zach67, here's a good point being brought up with Luke McCowan. So Zach was bringing up the point, he feels sorry for McCowan. He's done well in pre-season, scored last week. Yeah, look, listen, McCowan is somebody who is definitely in line for a start. But I think that ultimately the point always comes back to Hatate is obviously a much better player than Luke McCowan. Like, there's no... Luke McCowan would tell you that. Benjamin Nygren we've not seen enough of yet to make that assumption, but he is somebody who on paper is supposed to be a better player than Luke McCowan. Luke McCowan's going to get his chances as the season goes on. We're at early days. We're at a stage of the season yet where stakes are there. You can go out and make a case for yourself. If McCowan keeps coming off the bench and doing what he's doing, he'll be absolutely fine. And listen, he's living the dream. I want to see him get his chances though. Maybe Falkirk in the Cup next week is where we might see McCowan get some time as a starter. But I think he was brought into Celtic under no illusion of what his situation was going to be coming in, especially from Dundee for such a low fee. His situation was always going to be like that. And I think he's fine with that, to be quite honest. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens. Mark raising the point about Simpson Pusey saying he's not ready. He will show that suddenly it's okay for a right-footed left centre-back. Rodgers' reasoning for it absolutely baffling. He uses it to cover up his feelings about some players. I think that Simpson Pusey's a player that Rodgers will like. I think that he's one that Rodgers was probably all up for bringing in. But only time will tell, Mark. Only time will tell. A lot of people saying that McCowan probably should have started today. Listen, I would have been happy with McCowan starting, but I'm happy with any midfield. Listen, the thing is with Celtic's midfield is that it is so stacked. There is so many good players. Look, it could have been Bernardo, McCowan and McGregor for me today. And of course I'd have looked at it and went, that's not right. But I'd be confident in it because all our midfielders are good. We have a really good amount of midfielders. I think the only thing that people have reservations with at this moment in time is the fact that... we still don't have maybe the backup to Callum McGregor would quite like, but it's not the absolute priority at Celtic right now. The priority is getting a right winger in, getting a forward in, and going from there. But yeah, look, listen, any combination of midfielders would have done the job for me today. I think that we're so blessed when it comes to the middle of the park, and you see that when McCowan, comes off the bench, and you see that when Bernardo's up to speed and he plays, and you see that when Engels is at his best, and then obviously the three that are starting today, I have the utmost faith in. So I think that we're very, very lucky. With the midfield free situation that any free can play, and we'd be quite happy. Bernardo is on the bench, Baldy Prick. He is involved today. He's on the bench for Celtic. Ernest mostly saying he'll score today, but he's not the answer, which I think could be a lot of people's thinking when it comes to it. Ads Plays says, calling it now, by half time, he has missed 5 chances and still stays on until the 80th minute. Oh, but let's back our players. What happened to the days where we backed them, I miss those days. Listen, if he's missed 5 chances from by half time, I reckon he'll be hooked. If that was the case, if that happens. But I'm banking on him not missing 5 chances by half time. Ideally, he doesn't miss 5 chances by half time. Because that would be pretty annoying. Liam saying, Ryan, 2 questions for you. What's your thoughts on Kieran Bowie from Hibs? And would you think he's worth having a look at? And would you think that DDG could go a year in the sticks? David De Gea could go a year in the sticks after Schmeichel goes. I think David De Gea is probably quite happy in Florence, to be quite honest, but I would never pass up on him at Celtic because he's unbelievable and one of the best keepers I've ever seen. And I would love to have him at Celtic. He's one of my favourite keepers ever. On top, the actual point about Kieran Bowie, though, I think he looks a cracking player, and he's somebody that Celtic will probably keep a look at. What age is Kieran Bowie? Like, what is his... I know this is non-match day related, but 22. Celtic should definitely be keeping a look at Kieran Bowie, in my opinion. I think he looks like a quality wee player, to be quite honest. He double score today, says Baldy Prick. That's the faith. That's what I like. Ryan, you talk a lot of pish, mate. Honestly, I know I do. That's how I've made 50. That's how I've got 51,000 subscribers, mate, for talking pish, and I'm proud of that. You need to talk pish to be in this game, quite frankly. So that is what it is. Scoreline predictions for me today. I said in the podcast 2-0 Celtic. I think I said in the podcast. I'd be happy if we could keep a clean sheet today. I'd be very happy with that, to be honest. Let's see, keep your points coming in. We've got around 10 minutes left in the stream. We have over 700 live viewers, by the way, which is fantastic for the first one of these this season. I do appreciate it. Please hit like and subscribe. If you want to become a channel member, scan the QR code in the bottom corner. Hit like and subscribe, though, most importantly. Let's get the stuff out there, and let's get the recommended page swarmed by my content. That would be appreciated. Sinisalo is a much better keeper than Schmeichel and should be starting. I've seen that a couple of times. I can't agree with that, I'm afraid. I think that Kasper Schmeichel is an absolutely fantastic keeper. And that's not me downplaying the abilities of Vinny Sinisalo. His time will come. His time will come. And it's as simple as that. But Kasper Schmeichel hasn't done anything for me to suggest that his time is up. He is now in the last year of his footballing career, and he should be allowed to see that out, I think. We've also trying to bed in time for Vinny Sinisalo. I think that should be maybe looked at in the cup competitions. But Schmeichel has not become a bad keeper overnight. And I think that mistake in the cup final, funnily enough, against Aberdeen, has probably done some irreversible damage to some supporters. But he showed all last... I mean, this is the same Kasper Schmeichel that 6 or 7 games into his first season, I've seen people talking about how he's the best keeper of the 21st century at Celtic. It's just simple. It's how our supporters seem to work, but... You know, hello Mark in Brisbane. I love that. Good to see you. Hopefully, will Yamada get on the pitch today? I spoke about this in the podcast, and I want to make this point again while we're talking here before this game. I don't think that Kenny being chosen over Yamada last week was anything other than Brendan Rodgers having to play the striker he knows more about in a desperate situation. It was 0-0. We needed a goal, and Yamada had barely been with the team. And I don't think that Rodgers had enough confidence in the guy to go, right, you're the boy to go out and get us the win in this game. Whereas Kenny is somebody who somebody who's seen for an extensive period of time, and he maybe has just a little bit more trust in. And I think that's the only reason that Kenny came on over. Put it this way, right? If Celtic were beating St Mirren 3-0 last week with 20 minutes to go, Yamada would have got in the park. I think I believe that, truly, deep down inside me, I believe that if we were 3-0 up last week, Yamada would have got in the park. Just like I'll say today, if we're 2 or 3 goals to the good today, with about 10 minutes left in the game, 20 minutes left in the game, I think Yamada will get on the park. I just think that Brendan Rodgers was well within his rights to play with an air of caution. Because, listen, what happens? Here, let me put a hypothetical, right? And people can say, oh, what happens if he comes on and scores? Oh, it's all very well and good. But knowing how testing our support can be, and knowing how nervous we all are right now at this moment in time, right? And how thick we're giving it to the board, to the manager, to the team, whatever else, right? Just how some supporters are acting right now. What if Yamada came on the park last week at 0-0 and missed an open goal? Or missed a huge chance? Supporters would have wrote him off from the first minute. And that would have been it. For some fan, it would be the Carl Starfelt effect all over again. No matter how well Carl Starfelt played for Celtic at times, because he had a dodgy first game, Celtic fans were constantly on his back. Constantly. He could have the slightest mistake in a game, and people were like, whoa, he's not good enough. He's not good enough at all. And I think that would be the effect if Yamada came on and missed a sitter last week when we really had to get off to a winning start. I think that Rodgers was well within his rights to protect Yamada. And I think that's what last week was all about. I think last week was about protection. And that's my opinion. As trusty in the squad, he is. I never doubted Starfelt either, to a couple of people. I'd take him back in a heartbeat as well. I think Starfelt and Vickers would be an ideal centre-half partnership to move forward with, but hell-hum. And that's right, Matthew, bring up the point. People were ready. Look, remember when Yakimakis missed that penalty against Livy? That was, until January, I heard nothing but bad things about Yakimakis. And see, by the time that Yakimakis left, people were yearning for him back, and still do. And were choking for him to be the starting striker. But because he missed that penalty against Livingston in the 90th minute, people had it out for him from the first minute. If Yamada came on last week and that happened, the same thing would have happened. So it's all very easy for us to sit here and go, why did Kenny come over Yamada? Why is Yamada not getting a start? Because I think that Brendan Rodgers has a duty of protection to some of these players. And I don't blame him for that. I don't. Especially how our fans can be. But anyway, we'll see if he gets on the park this afternoon. And then we'll go from there. I've not got any sort of judgment of Yamada yet, bar 45 minutes in a friendly, which I'm not going to use as the basis of rating his game. I see that Yakimakis still in talks of a move back over to like Greece, because if I was Celtic, I'd be all over that. I know I've said a million times in this channel we need to get over it, but like if he's available, then I would certainly think about it. But again, that's not the topic of today's stream. So, and it's pie in the sky stuff as well. You know, it's not going to happen. I think he would be a perfect Brendan Rodgers striker. I get it. A club like this, you need to hit the ground running immediately, says Sam. Yeah, it's as simple as that. You do. You need to hit the ground running, or at least you need to show a wave of optimism to the supporters that or a wave of something that can make people believe in you. And if that never happened last week, if he came on the park, then bang. I agree, Alistair. Starting 11 is more than good enough to beat Aberdeen, and I think that Celtic fans are, trying to put them down a little bit. Mark saying, nonsense, Ryan, if you're good enough to play end of. I agree with that, Mark, but that's not how our supporters work, though. And you know that for a fact. Like, our supporters will write people off if they don't play well in the first game. And I agree. I think if a player's good enough and they're signed because they're good enough, they should probably play. I agree with that. But I just think that sometimes there is a wave of protection that's needed. Brendan hasn't forgiven Trusty for being weak as piss against Dundee and St Johnstone. Yeah, I think it's between that and the fact that Scales didn't play particularly bad last week. Like, I think that once again, I'll reiterate the point. I think that Scales has to be a lot better with the ball at his feet, but I don't think defensively he's been bad across pre-season / the first game against St Mirren. So I think it's hard to maybe justify dropping him. I would personally play Trusty. I think we all know that, but it is what it is. Aaron saying buzzing for the last week of the window where we panic and overpay for wingers, and the board somehow get praised for that. Feels inevitable at this point, doesn't it? It feels somewhat inevitable. I'm seeing a 7-0 Aberdeen shout. Now, if that happens, I will eat every part of my body on stream. I will quite literally just die on stream by whatever you call that. I don't know if that's death by cannibalism, but it's something. We've got a few minutes left, so if you want any points answered desperately, then please get them in as we approach the 800 viewer mark. I will be going off at around 12, so if you've got anything you want to say, make sure you say it now. Colin Rudd saying terrible team selection. Interestingly enough, I'd like to think what you would rather the team selection be. That's just me asking a genuine question. I'm not saying that this is the perfect team, I'm just wondering what you would change. Mackenzie going 4-0, wow. Mr. Speedbird saying, how the manager can look at that midfield last week and still think they should start today is bizarre. Hitati off it and Nygren, who will come good, wasn't anything special. Nygren could have scored last week, and I think the narrative would have been very different if he did. He was very unlucky not to score. Hitati, I thought, was probably the weaker of the three. I thought McGregor was brilliant. Listen, one game at a time. I think that if football managers acted off one game basis and sporadically changed the teams to suit split-second calls, you wouldn't be able to build consistency. You wouldn't be able to build a rhythm, and we wouldn't do well. I mean, imagine knows what he's doing. Simple as that. And we'll see what happens. No, it's not ended, Smell the Glove. We've just been both very, very busy. We'll get back to it. Trust me. We need to win by a few goals just to end the horror that is Livy being top of the league. So if we win by 2 goals today, we will go top. So, for the time being, until we see what happens with Hearts and Hibs. But, listen, 3 points is 3 points. I want to see a convincing sort of performance, though. I think we need that just to usher some calm into supporters. I think a kind of domination of a performance would be nice from Celtic. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I want to see Nygren take control of this game. A big game for him as well. I'm looking forward to seeing Nygren today. Especially, it's different when you're watching a game on the telly than being at a game. I think it's a lot easier to kind of read the game and read players when you're watching the telly. So I'm looking forward to seeing Nygren today. St. Mortal saying ban the bedwetters. FM later, yes, Mackenzie, there will be an FM stream after I do my match reaction today, so don't worry. We'll fill you in the time when I finish my match reaction. Keep that in mind, lads, as I get ready to finish up. My match reaction will be live following today's game. I'm going to wrap things up there. Just a reminder of the starting 11 is on screen. Casper Schmeichel, Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney, Benji Nygren, Cal McGregor, Rio Hitati, James Forrest, Adam Ida and Dyson Maida. That does it for me before the game. Enjoy, hopefully, for the post-match reaction. We're talking about Celtic being top of the league, and hopefully we're all very happy. And hopefully Adam Ida scores some goals.